So when you're joining fabric with a pattern, all your cut lengths should be cut in the same place on the pattern, so that when you line the bottoms up, the pattern should match down the side. So as you can see here, this is the bottom of one of my cut lengths, and this is the bottom of my other one, and the pattern finishes in the same place. So line up the bottom edges of your cut length of fabric and smooth it out, making sure also that your selvages are in line with each other. Now when you join pattern fabric, you always must join it along the selvage edge. Don't join it halfway across a width, you always match selvage to selvage. This is the bottom of the two fabric panels here, and because I have lined up the bottom edges, the minute I pull this top fabric back, you can already see the pattern beginning to match. So you may have to move it up by 1 millimetre or 2, but immediately you can see that you've got a continuous pattern there. Now the key to joining fabric is to use lots and lots of pins, plenty of pins, and have a vanishing pen or a fabric pen handy so that you can mark a dotted line along the fold. Now when I'm joining pattern fabric, I always start in the middle and work to the top and then to the bottom. So I'm pulling back the fabric in the middle, and you should be able to see how this fabric here is very similar to the fabric underneath. It just needs to be moved around a little bit. And what I need to do is pull this fabric slightly more towards me. And then I've already matched that up totally. So if it goes back there, it's not going to match. If it comes too far forward, it's not going to match. So it's just a question of playing around with it and getting it to sit in exactly the right place. You can see it just moves in and out. So here is perfect. Now once you're happy with that position, smooth the fabric out, take a pin and put it through all of the layers of the fabric. And with your pattern fabric, every amount that you have to fold back is going to vary. Some you need to fold back a good couple of centimetres here, and some of them it's only just half a centimetre. So you'll just have to play around with your fabric and work out how far back you have to make that first fold. Now once you can see how much you've folded back, in this case it's about half a centimetre. From your pin in the middle, just work to the top, smoothing back the fabric the same amount. You can normally just do this by eye, you don't need to use a ruler, but if you feel you're having problems with it, then you can always use a ruler to get an accurate fold. So press really firmly on that fold with your fingers, so you've got a really good strong crease in the fabric. And I'm going to work the other way now, so from the middle back to the bottom. And now what we're going to do is I just take the pin out in the centre, fold the fabric back over, and we've made a really good crease here along this line. But when you take it over to the sewing machine, it's sometimes quite hard to see that line. So what I do is I take my vanishing pen and I draw a dashed line along this crease. Don't be tempted to use a ruler to draw this line, because when you fold this back over and you have to push it around to get it into the correct position, it doesn't form always a straight line. So this has got to be a bit freehand and just use a pen to draw a dotted line all the way along the length of your fabric panel. Once you've drawn your dotted line along the fold that you've made, come back to the centre section where you started, fold the fabric back, and again get it into the correct position. Now what we're going to do, rather than pin on the top here, because we need this flap to be open so we can sew along the back of it, we're going to focus our attention on the underside of this flap of fabric. So you can now see where the fabric meets up with the fabric underneath. But what you need to do is just lift it up, again, get it into the perfect position. When you're happy with the position that it's in, fold the top flap back down again and take a small pin, and on the top, along your dotted line, put a pin at right angles to the selvage through both layers of fabric so that the centre of the pin is in the centre of that line. Putting pins this way stops the fabric from slipping. If you put the pins in from top to bottom or bottom to top, then the two fabric panels can slip apart when you're sewing them with the machine. So if you put your pins in this way, it will stop the fabric slipping apart and it will join it at exactly the place where you want it to join. So again, looking at the underside of this fold of fabric, you can see here where these two white lines join up perfectly. So I'm going to take another pin and put it through both layers of fabric at a right angle to the side of the fabric so that the centre of the pin is going through my dotted line here. And I know that that is perfectly matched in those two places. Now you need to put pins every 2 to 3 inches all the way down the side of the fabric. Now what you need to do in between the two pins is take another pin and place it between the two fabric panels. As you can see, I've put plenty of pins in, and the key with putting the pins in is that you actually put them where you can physically see where the pattern needs to match up. If you've got a run of blank fabric when there is no pattern to match, you don't need to be so fussy about putting pins here. We're now going to sew along the dotted line that we drew. So start off by doing a couple of backwards and forward stitches to hold the thread in place. And then just let the fabric go through the machine following. You might be able to see the little crease line that I've got there, but that's why I've put the dashes there, because sometimes it's hard to see the crease line when you get it into the light of the sewing machine. So the dotted line is always quite a good guide as well. Don't be scared to sew over the pins. Now it's time to take all the pins out. So now it's a moment of truth to see if I've matched it up correctly. Yeah, that's a good pattern match. Once you're happy with the join, you just need to open up the seam and press it open.